Jim Heath. Welcome to the Jim Heath channel. Time for another update on our Electoral College map forecast. And this is the first program since the big shift, the big ground change that's happened. The headline, of course, of this program is the fact that President Joe Biden is out and Vice President Kamala Harris is in. And she's making some inroads. Now, when we started these programs back in January, I mentioned that there was a very good chance that the polls would begin to close come fall when people started to truly concentrate on the election. But at that time, of course, we all thought President Biden would be at the helm. But that disastrous debate performance that he had cycled out of control, and it went out of control quickly, leading to him announcing that he was not going to seek re-election and the vice president taking his place. And now that she has a ticket, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, Donald Trump has J.D. Vance, a senator from Ohio, with him. We know who all the players are going to be throughout the fall campaign, and the ground is indeed shifting, although we didn't expect this scenario to play out, of course. It's very historical, and whatever you think about it from either perspective, we are living through some very interesting historical times. If you're a Donald Trump supporter, I will tell you that we still project that if the election were today in August, Donald Trump would be on his way back to the White House. We believe that Donald Trump would end the night against Kamala Harris with 297 electoral votes. The vice president would have 241. But I want to show you here that that's a pickup. That is a gain for the vice president from last month when we showed President Trump defeating President Biden 313 electoral votes to 225. Why is that? Let's begin our top 5 countdown here and look at these battleground states. And let's begin with the state of Michigan, which now we show Vice President Harris leading the former president by 2 points, 2% in the state of Michigan. She has turned and flipped that state back blue for the first time this year. You might recall that in our last program, we showed Donald Trump leading Joe Biden in the state of Michigan by less than 1%, by about 0.6%. But still, that's an impressive turnaround for the vice president in just a 2 or 3 week period of time. I should mention here that all of the battleground states are back in play. You remember last month I said on the program that alarm bells should be sounding for the Democratic Party and for President Biden, because at that point it looked like all of the top 5 battleground states were slipping out of his control. And Donald Trump was beginning to make inroads and create new battlegrounds in traditionally Democratic states like New Hampshire, Virginia, and Minnesota. But all of that has been reset now. And we'll show you that as we continue our top 5 countdown. Let's go to the state of Arizona now, where President Trump, former President Trump, still leads with 4.2% over Vice President Harris. But you'll see that this is a pickup. Last month at this time, Trump's lead over Joe Biden was 5.4%. So there has been some ground shifting in the state of Arizona, but not enough yet to say that that is totally back in play. But that is certainly in the right direction if you're a Democrat and a supporter of Kamala Harris. Let's go to the state of Georgia now. The Trump lead over the vice president is 2%. That is a very, very close margin, especially considering that just a month ago, Trump's lead over President Joe Biden was 5.3%. So we can officially say that Georgia is back in the true battleground status here. The vice president is picking up some steam in the state of Georgia. I want to mention here, I've been doing these electoral college map forecasts for 40 years now, since I was in high school. For me, this is not a Republican or Democrat thing. This is simply trying to get it right thing, election after election. The formula that I'm using for this particular program is the exact same formula I've been using all year long that has shown Donald Trump significantly ahead of Joe Biden. The numbers are shifting. That's the reality of what's happening here. Whether that means a permanent shift for the vice president in these battleground states, we don't know yet. But what we do know with certainty is that the vice president has injected energy into this Democratic Party that was severely lacking with President Biden prior to his decision of dropping out of the race. Let's take a look at the state of Wisconsin here. Now we have Donald Trump leading in the state of Wisconsin by 0.2%. Basically, that is too close to call. That is still a slight lead, so we're going to keep it red for now. But take a look at where it was at just a month ago, 2.2%. So Donald Trump has dropped 2 full points in just the last few weeks since Joe Biden dropped out of the race in the state of Wisconsin. Also want to show you now the most important battleground state in them all, Pennsylvania. There is no way we believe that Kamala Harris can get the 270 electoral votes without winning the state of Pennsylvania. And right now, Trump continues to lead in that state by 2.7%. However, that lead over Joe Biden just a month ago was 5.3%. So take a look at that. from 5.3% to 2.7% in just a few weeks. That momentum is clearly moving in Harris's direction. Now, she did not choose a running mate from that state. Would Josh Shapiro have locked in Pennsylvania for Harris? We don't believe so. With Shapiro's help and a very energetic top of the ticket, including Harris and Walz, who will spend obviously a lot of time in Midwestern states, including Pennsylvania, maybe that 2.7% drops in the next month, and that becomes too close to call. So those are the top 5 states that we've been looking at. You can see that the movement in those states has been all toward the vice president, especially in the state of Michigan, which we can officially flip now from red to blue. That's the big headline of the hour, that the Democrats have recaptured one of those battleground states, and now it's up to Harris and Walz to see if they can control that lead in the state of Michigan. I want to show you a few other states here that we looked at last month just to show you how the Democratic blue ground game has improved significantly. In Nevada, which Joe Biden actually won 4 years ago, the lead from President Trump over President Biden, 5.2%, has dropped now to 4% over Vice President Harris. So there is some movement in the state of Nevada. In North Carolina, another one of those states the Democrats have wanted to be competitive in, there's basically no change. It's gone from a 5.8% lead of Trump to a 5.5% over Harris. So basically, North Carolina, at least from a Democratic perspective, remains stuck, and that is certainly good news for Trump and Republicans. 3 other states last month that we showed you that Trump was beginning to make inroads in, traditionally blue Democratic states that are must-win states for Democrats. Let's take a look at them. Harris now is up to an 8% lead from 3% in the state of Minnesota. So once again, we have put Minnesota solidly in blue. In the state of New Hampshire, Harris is up 6% from 3%, so she's doubled Joe Biden's lead in the state of New Hampshire. Once again, we've moved that back to blue. And in the state of Virginia, Harris's lead is up to 5%. That's up from 2.2%. And in all of these states, all 3 of these states, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Virginia, we had the momentum for Donald Trump a month ago. So those numbers were beginning to close. Now the numbers are beginning to expand again. So all 3 of those states, we believe, are out of range for the former president, who the momentum now has shifted back into the blue in those blue states. So you can take a look at the entire map now. You can see the big change this month from last month is the state of Michigan. We have now colored that blue. We believe that Vice President Kamala Harris has improved the lead significantly enough for us to flip that state from red to blue. That's the first time that we've seen one of these battlegrounds go blue the entire year. And we do show momentum for the Democratic ticket in the other battleground states, but not enough to flip any of those other 4 states into the Harris column at this point. But clearly, the ground game momentum is on Harris's side. Should point out that we still have a long way to go. I remember back in 1988, Michael Dukakis, the governor of Massachusetts, had a 17-point lead over Vice President George Bush at the time of the conventions. That 17-point lead quickly dwindled through the fall. The debates were disastrous for Dukakis, and Bush ended up winning that election in a landslide. So, I mean, nothing is in concrete here. These are all moving numbers. I would end today's program by saying if you're a Trump supporter, you're still ahead. Don't panic. Just play for those battleground states. Pennsylvania, the fact that Harris didn't pick the governor there means that Pennsylvania could still possibly be very competitive. But if you're a Democrat, finally, there's energy. There's energy in the ticket. The crowds are up. The money is coming in. The shift in the battleground states is evident now based on actual polling and our formula that we use. So there is some momentum and there is some hope that this election is going to continue to close. And I think it's going to be a barn burner on election night. It just has every indication now of being the election night that we all feared and expected that would happen, which is going to be a lot of too close to call states on election night and a lot of continued counting in the days following the election, which is exactly what I think both parties and everyone wanted to avoid. But this gives every indication now of what was a month ago looking to be almost an electoral college map landslide for Donald Trump to being a very competitive race in the end, if that momentum for the Democrats continues past their convention and into the fall. We'll continue to monitor this. As always, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. That keeps us going. We very much appreciate it. See you next time.
He's been watching the Electoral College map since high school and college. No one understands the race to 270 electoral votes better than Jim Heath. You can count on his fair and balanced analysis throughout election 2024. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. Thanks for watching the Jim Heath channel.